We're all getting a very good idea, aren't we? Joining us tonight is attorney Robert Ray. He was a member of President Trump's impeachment defense legal team, former federal prosecutor, former independent counsel for the Whitewater investigation. Robert, good to have you with us.
Nice to be with you.
This, as we look at these sentencing guidelines and the experience in the federal system, Roger Stone just got slammed for 40 months for something that is typically a matter of 9 months. There are so many questions about her, Judge Jackson, her biases in this, because she is, of course, politically on the other side. The remarks she made from the bench. Your reaction to, first, the president's outrage at what is happening to Roger Stone.
Laughter aside, you just played the clip. The president is onto something, and it is something very serious. And it does get to a fundamental question about miscarriage of justice and fairness. And so I think, before this is over, the president intends to address that very question. And it has aspects that are reflected in the Roger Stone proceeding from the outset, which you and I have discussed was heavy-handed. Heavy-handed,
unfair, a miscarriage of justice. And by the way, one doesn't have to be an attorney. One doesn't have to be a judge or a prosecutor to understand fairness is at the bedrock of our legal system, or it is supposed to be. And this is, I love some of the wags who are saying, blind justice is supposed to be blind. Right. Justice right now appears to be very, very conscious of political affiliation and membership in the deep state or the radical Dems. It's truly upsetting to see a Justice Department rife with political corruption. Millions of Americans expect so much more from our public servants. And instead of holding them to, as we have throughout this country's history, our public servants to a higher standard of conduct, we are now holding them to a lower standard in almost every instance.
And the Attorney General has been subject to an enormous amount of criticism. And I think, really honestly, Lou, he's trying to right the ship of state here, to restore honor and integrity to the department, its mission, the FBI, and the public's perception that politics doesn't enter into the initiation, from the initiation of an investigation all the way through a sentencing proceeding.
Robert, I can assure you no one in this country has been more hopeful of what this Attorney General can achieve, placing more faith in him, in what he could achieve.
And I think the president is behind that mission, too.
I certainly agree. He appointed him. He holds him in high favor. But we've gone a year, and not McCabe, not Comey, you name it, they're still free to express their outrage at having been held in limbo for 2 years just because they lied under oath and lied to the Congress. This is really appalling. That's what I mean when I talk about a lower standard.
And I think it strikes an awful lot of...
You mentioned the Attorney General.
Right.
Why isn't the Attorney General moving? Why is he having public comments, making public comments about his boss, the president? And why this preposterous nonsense that's abroad in the radical Dem party and the national left-wing media about the Justice Department is an independent branch? It's not. It's a part of the executive branch, and that the boss is still the president.
I think a lot of people need to go to school on that. I think that has been completely missed by and large by the media. I mean, the fact remains that the president is the head of the executive branch, and it doesn't take any big believer in a unitary executive to see and understand that the president ultimately makes the call, and all power is derived through the president with regard to all of the functions of the Department of Justice.
But it does take a believer in the Constitution.
It does.
And that is very disturbing to consider how many in this country right now are buying into this nonsense. We've gone from Eric Holder, the wingman of President Obama, to now the president is being criticized because he expects loyalty and he expects to be able to issue an order and have it followed.
And that's the great danger of the politicization of this process. When you start heading down that road, and when it comes to a point that politics starts to trump the Constitution, you don't agree with the result, let's just ignore the Constitution, then we are treading in
Well, let's put it in constitutional terms.
we are treading in very, very dangerous territory.
And we're in that territory.
We are.
And that's what disturbs me about the Attorney General. Instead of talking about what he is confronting in the deep state, the political corruption within the Justice Department and the FBI, he's talking about the president's tweets as being a major impediment to his success as an investigator and prosecutor. I think that's absolutely ludicrous. Don't you?
Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that.
It always is.
I guess I would say there's a limit to what the Attorney General can do right now because there are investigations that are still ongoing.
We've heard that for years. We're still waiting for the final report, for God's sake, from the Justice Department on the cause of the radical Islamist terrorist attack to the council in Benghazi.
Fair point, and there's a limit to the public's patience with the wheels of justice turn slowly, and I do understand that. But I also understand that, you know, juries' verdicts have to be respected. The system demands that. I would be...
Even when politically tainted, as two of the jurors were?
Well, and that's a separate issue, and you're correct to focus on it. It is unusual for the judge to have deferred that decision and gone ahead with sentencing when she has a motion pending related to whether or not there's been a miscarriage of justice as a result of possibly a tainted jury. I don't know what the answer to that is, and I'm not close enough to be able to opine as to what the proper result is. But, you know, there's going to be an appeal here. This will be evaluated by another court. I hope that Roger Stone remains on bail during the pendency of that appeal. Then ultimately the president's going to make a call here about what the best interests of justice truly are.
This has been an early morning raid on his home, for crying out loud.
Well, that's heavy-handed from the outset, yes. And it was done because they were trying to draw information from him that he didn't have to give. And that's where the president is right to have focused in on this. If ultimately there was no there, then why did we go through all of this?
Well, I think maybe for us to be aware of the fact that right now we have some prosecutors, many of them who work for Robert Mueller and the special counsel, who then, 3 of them, worked as prosecutors against Roger Stone, who apparently got their training in the thought that they would be serving in the Soviet Union rather than the United States.
Well, we
still have a constitution in this country, and it should be honored for everyone,
no, you're right.
Of their party.
You're right.
And you know that.
They stood on their high horse, and the fact is they don't remember who it is
and
they
lied through their teeth.
And they forgot who it is they work for.
Yep. And they work for the President of the United States.
Thank you.
Just like William Barr.
Thank you. Well, no, you're right to point that out, too. Yes, that's correct.
Well, I'm going to take the average tonight.
There you go.
and run with it. Thanks so much.
Not bad. Nice to be with you again.
Always
as
great
always.
to have you with us.
Pleasure.
And I know that you did, in all cases, want to defend part of the judiciary and part of the Justice Department.
It's important to be careful, Lou. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just to be careful.
I've just got to be right. That's all I got.
Well, that's important, too.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Appreciate it, Robert.